Mirrors reveal everything. While customers look at themselves, he watches them. For 30 years, no one has paid attention to his reflection in that mirror. Those faded marks on his temples, so light they're almost invisible. But today, a young soldier will look from just the right angle and uncover a 30-year-old secret. Welcome to the Silent Legends. Before we begin today's story, tell us in the comments which city you're watching from, and if you believe stories like this deserve to be told, hit that subscribe button to support us. The barber shop looked like time had stopped there. Classic barber chair, brass-detailed mirror, faded photographs on the walls. Frank's hands moved with the same mastery that morning. 65 years old, graying hair, deep lines on his face, and that perpetually calm expression. "Hey, Frank, how long you been cutting hair?" asked his customer. "Long time," Frank said, cleaning his razor. This was always his answer. Short, direct, preventing further questions. The neighborhood had gotten used to him. Frank was the man who didn't talk. He did his job, took his money, said thank you, that's it. Old photographs hung in the shop, black and white, blurry, the kind nobody cared about. Neighborhood kids would sometimes ask, "Frank, who are these people in the photos?" He always gave the same answer. Old friends. But the truth was much more complex. The men in those photographs were people who never officially existed in records. They were photos of secret operations, wars nobody knew about, heroes who died silently, and Frank was their only surviving member. It was 11 o'clock. Another customer entered the shop. Young, fit, military-bearing. He wore plain civilian clothes, but his walk, his posture, the way he scanned the room. Frank immediately recognized it. "Soldier." "Morning," said the young man. "Can I get a shave?" "Sure, have a seat." The young man sat in the chair. He started watching Frank in the mirror. This wasn't a normal customer. His eyes were too sharp, too careful. He was noting every detail. "What's your name?" Frank asked while preparing. Connor Matthews. You?" "Frank. Last name?" Frank paused. Few people asked his last name. "Russo," but this was a false name. His real name was much more complex, much heavier. Connor watched Frank's movements in the mirror. The man worked with incredible calmness. His hand never trembled. Every movement was calculated to the millimeter. Even his breathing was controlled. "You have very steady hands," Connor said. "Experience," Frank said. "What kind of experience?" "Many years." Connor smiled. This man wasn't giving proper answers to any questions, but this made him more interested. When Frank leaned over to adjust Connor's hair, Connor noticed something in the mirror's reflection. On the man's left temple, just behind his ear, there was a very faint tattoo. So faded it was almost invisible. But Connor's trained eye didn't miss it. An eagle, very stylized, very specific eagle, and 3 small lines beneath it. Connor's heart raced. He had seen this tattoo before. But where? "Excuse me," Connor said. "What's that mark on your temple?" Frank's hand stopped. Just for a second, but Connor noticed. "Old scar," he said. "That's not a scar, that's a tattoo." Silence. Frank put down the razor, made eye contact with Connor in the mirror. "You're looking very carefully, young man." "Occupational hazard." "I'm military." "What unit?" "Special forces." "Were you military?" A long silence. Frank finished Connor's shave, cleaned his face with a towel. "Everyone's young once," he said. But Connor was starting to become certain. This tattoo was a mark carried only by members of a very special unit, secret operations unit, a unit not even mentioned in files. Connor stood up, paid his money, but he didn't leave. "Frank," he said, That tattoo, eagle, and 3 lines. That's a very specific mark. Frank studied him. He wondered how much this young man knew. What do you know, young man? 1985 to 1995. Secret Operations Unit. Unit that didn't exist in official records. Only 12 people. All top marksmen. All ghost operations. Frank's face didn't change, but his eyes drifted very far away. Those files are classified. Yes, I'm someone with classified file access, too. What unit are you in? Deltaforce, but I was selected for special missions. Frank locked the shop door, turned the sign to closed. Sit, he said. Connor sat. Frank sat in the chair across from him. 2 men looked at each other. How do you know about that unit? During an operation, old files surfaced. 1994, Middle East. Terrorist camp raid, carried out by a single person. An operation that seemed impossible. Frank's breathing deepened. Which one of them did that operation? The file only has a code name. Shadow 7 inches. Frank stood up, took down one of the old photographs from the wall. Something was written on the back. I was Shadow 7, he said. Connor looked at the photograph in shock. 12 young men, full combat gear, but their faces were blurred so they couldn't be recognized. This photograph, Connor began, taken before our last mission. 1995. 12 of us went. I came back alone. Silence, heavy. Painful silence. What happened to them? Classified, still classified. But I can tell you this. 11 of my friends died to save 200 innocents, and I've been trying to account for them for 30 years. Frank placed the photograph on the table. He caressed his friends' faces with his fingers. To be in this unit, you had to have very special abilities. You had to be able to hit a target with a single shot from 2,000 meters. Wind calculation, humidity ratio, target movement patterns. You had to be able to calculate all of it in 3 seconds. Do you still have those abilities? Frank smiled. For the first time, he was really smiling. Your hands never forget. Your eyes never forget. I've been a barber for 30 years, but when I look at every customer, it's like I'm seeing them from 2,000 meters away. Every movement, every detail, it's all recorded. So why did you become a barber? Because it's the most innocent profession. Nobody thinks a barber can be dangerous, perfect camouflage, and the best place to observe people. Everyone talks at the barbers. For 30 years, I've known who's doing what in the neighborhood. Connor listened in amazement. But why didn't you ever tell anyone? Because some secrets need to be carried. Some pain shouldn't be shared. I carry the pain of my 11 friends. That's my duty. Just then, someone knocked on the shop door. Hard, urgent knocking. Frank, open up. Emergency. Frank got up. Opened the door. Tom from the neighborhood in a panic. Frank, they took little Jimmy. Who took him? Don't know. They set up a roadblock, forced Jimmy into their car. We called the cops, but Frank's face changed. Jimmy was the neighborhood's 8-year-old boy. Pure innocent child. Where did they go? Toward that old warehouse. But Frank, they're armed. Very dangerous. Frank turned, looked at Connor Young. Man, want to see a real operation. Connor stood up. What are you going to do? Become Shadow 7. Again after 30 years. Frank opened the hidden compartment at the back of the shop. Inside, perfectly preserved, were a sniper rifle, tactical gear, and old rank insignia. This equipment, never used it, but I clean it every day because I knew a day like this would come. 10 minutes later, Frank had completely transformed tactical vest, professional rifle, that old gleam in his eyes. This was no longer the neighborhood barber. This was Turkey's most elite sniper. The old warehouse was in an abandoned area outside the city. Frank and Connor were observing the target from a hill 800 meters away. How many are there? Connor asked. Frank looked through binoculars. His eyes caught millimetric details. 5 people, four-armed one, holding the child. Positioning, perfect sniper position. What's the plan? You call the police. I'll do my job. How Frank set up his rifle. After 30 years, his hands still had that perfect muscle memory. 4 targets, 4 shots, 12 seconds. The child won't be harmed. Impossible. From this distance at this angle. Young man, 30 years ago. I was hitting targets with a single shot from 2,000 meters in 40 kilometers per hour. Winds, this distance is child's play for me. Frank took position, held his breath. His eyes sharpened like a microscope. Wind calculation, humidity. Target's movement patterns. He calculated everything in 3 seconds. First shot, from 800 meters. First target. Perfect second shot. 4 seconds later. Second target. Perfect third shot. Target moving. Calculated lead shot. Perfect fourth shot. Most difficult angle, without harming the child. Perfect 12 seconds. 4 targets. 4 perfect shots. Connor couldn't believe it. This man was a legend. When police arrived, the child was safe. The kidnappers neutralized. But Frank and Connor had already disappeared. When they returned to the shop, Frank put his equipment back in the hidden compartment. Nothing happened tonight, he said, but you saved people. The public would declare you a hero. You don't need medals to be a hero. Young man, heroism is what you do, where nobody sees. Connor was thoughtful. Can I tell this story to anyone? Don't tell it, but remember it. There are people like this in this country. They live quietly, protect quietly, sacrifice quietly. Would you consider returning to operations? Frank smiled. I never left. I've been here for 30 years on duty. Just my area of operation changed. I used to track enemies, now I protect my neighborhood. The next day, Connor stopped by the shop. Frank was shaving another customer as if nothing had happened. Frank Connor said last night's operation made the papers. Unidentified. Sniper saves kidnapped child. Frank said simply. Nobody will suspect you. Good. Now I ask you, have you ever met someone like Frank? Someone who looks ordinary but actually has extraordinary stories. These kinds of people are everywhere. In barber shops, stores on buses. They live quietly. Protect quietly. Maybe one day when you look carefully at someone's reflection in a mirror, you'll notice someone like this too. And then you'll understand the greatest heroes are the ones who don't wear medals. Tell us in the comments, have you ever known someone like this? If this story moved, you don't forget to subscribe, because at The Silent Legends, we'll continue telling stories like this. And remember, sometimes the most ordinary-looking person can have the most extraordinary story.